Pete Wishart.
Ever so much, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I first of all refer to my entry in the register of members' interests? It's been a long time since we've had the floor of the House of Commons to discuss and debate the creative industries. It's always a fantastic debate. I see the Minister nodding along there. And what we find out is all the dynamic enterprises, cultural activity that goes on in members' constituencies. But more than that, we find out hidden talents amongst their colleagues. And I think I was as surprised as anybody to hear that we've got a veteran of the punk days from the Roxy and singers and film writers. So it's just an abundance of talent that we have in this House. And I feel a bit more confident now. I mean, I lost both of my colleagues in MP4 as they stood down at the last election. So I'm now actively recruiting for a new parliamentary rock band. So my door is open to any aspiring musician who wants to perform in MP4. But as usual in these debates, there's a chorus of approval, support and satisfaction with the quality of the UK creative industries, as there should be. We just do this so well. It's something that we have ingrained into our cultural output. And there's something that we do across the whole of these aisles that just produces this conveyor belt of talent, imagination and creativity. And we have successful creative industries because of the imagination of the people of this country. And isn't it great that we could sort of turn around and say that we could power our economy based on the creativity, invention and imagination of the people who live and inhabit these aisles? But we need more than that to be successful, and where it's now mostly down to the creativity of the people who work in our creative industries, we need the right conditions. We need to provide the context and the environment for these creative industries to survive, to develop and to thrive. And for the last sort of 60 years, I think we've been quite good at doing that and achieving it. We've intervened when it's been necessary. We've obviously have conversations and debates about investment, about what sort of support goes into the creative industries, and whether we get that balance quite right. And of course there's going to be political debates about the budgets and national insurance contributions. But basically what we've done, I think, is have the right conditions for art, for creativity and for the industry that comes with that to develop and to thrive. And we've got that because we've got an IP system that's the envy of the world, which is embedded into UK law. This is the bedrock of our creative industries, the foundation of our success. And part of that, of course, is our wonderful copyright regime. Again, the envy of the world, which makes sure that artists are properly compensated for the wonderful works that they produce and ensures that they get recognised for the works that they deliver and that they bring forward. So we tamper with all of this at our peril. And we've been here before. I remember back in the 2010s when copyright exceptions were quite the fashion. Those days it wasn't the threat from AI companies that was a problem, it was the internet service providers and the pirates and the threat of digitisation to so much of our creative industries. And isn't it funny? It's always the creative industries that are in the front line of technical innovations. It's always the creative industries that seem to be having to suffer because of what we're trying to do and achieve when it comes to technological innovation. And I'm looking around the chamber, and I think it's only the Minister and the Right Honourable Member for Malden that are veterans of the Digital Economy Act. That was probably the high point of the last interest in copyright exceptions. Then, of course, the general philosophical debate was all around an unfettered internet that was to be free at the point of use for everybody. There was this absurd business model that somehow we could have all this high quality content and we wouldn't have to pay for any of it. Of course, that was quickly knocked on its head, but we have the legacy of that with the arrival of the huge tech platforms, the tech brothers getting together in terms of developing their own companies. And what we have is a situation just now where there are massive tech companies that provide nothing other than platforms, create very little of the content itself, who are growing rich and fat of the creativity and invention of the people who actually provide this, the artists, musicians themselves. So this is something, I think, this value gap between the musician, the artist, and these big platforms and companies that we will have to address. But I don't think that we've ever had such a threat as generative AI. This is what we're looking at just now. Now, I've got in my notes here that I was going to have a go at the Minister for having already made up his mind. But I'm actually a bit reassured of what he said, and I think all of us should be encouraged, because I really did think they'd made up their mind. I thought it was without qualification that they were going to go down this opt-out route, and certainly all the things they've said up to this point, they seem to confirm that. I mean, the very grumpy tone of the Minister for Science at the statement, I didn't think helped matters much, particularly when he had to go at the chair of the Select Committee. But you know, this is good, and I think what we've now got to do, and I'm looking around at colleagues who've contributed to this debate and expressed their concerns, is to encourage the Minister gently through persuasion. He knows the view of the industry and sector, and I think he knows it is overwhelmingly negative. He won't be able to find anybody within any creative sector who's telling him that what he proposes with an opt-out is going to work, is good for our creative industries, and is even good for AI. We've heard from several colleagues that this idea of a model breakdown where AI starts to feed on itself. It's what we can expect to come, and I think the analogy about Blade Runner was just fantastic, and I think that's exactly where we'll be going if we allow unfettered AI development to continue along this line. So I think tonight we've reached a really interesting point where I think the government are probably going to reconsider its position when it comes to all of this. They're going to take on board what's been said by members, right? I see the Minister now shaking his head. He'll maybe clarify all this when he's going to get to his feet. I know they think they've got an idea and a solution which somehow supports both the AI sector and the creative industry sector, but there is nobody that actually believes that. I'm sorry, Minister, there is no one who could go along with this idea that somehow we open up the nation's creative work to be scraped and to be mined, that would ever get us to a situation where this could ever be possibly useful for the creative industries, and I don't think it would be useful for the AI sector either. So we're at a really important point when it comes to all this, and I think that we have to have a look at this properly. And just lastly, we've heard a few myths about all this. This idea that somehow there's unclarity about the laws pertaining to and which embed our copyright regime. It's just nonsense. Nobody actually believes that. I don't think AI companies would even tell you there's any question about the legality of the copyright regime. It's just something that ministers trawl out to try and create uncertainty in the sector, and it doesn't work. The one thing that's absolutely certain is if we do open unfettered data mining and text and data mining to AI companies, there will then be real difficulties. And some of the scenarios that have been painted by other members who've got up to spoke, I think, are going to be actually realised and be very, very damaging for this government. Now, we know the government is invested into AI. I mean, they're in an economic mess and they're looking to grab at anything which will give them some sort of comfort. And AI is obviously one of the areas that they've identified that might bring this promised growth and give them some sort of confidence and reassurance that what they're trying to do with the economy might actually get to where they're seeking to take it. But what we cannot do, Madam Deputy Speaker, is just to be obsessively fixated with all this to the cost of so much of our heritage and culture. And where it's right that this government does pursue and proceed with AI, what it's got to do is to take a balanced approach, and it's got to look after the interests of our nation's creators, inventors and artists. So far, it's not been able to do this, but there is encouraging signs. So I'm actually looking forward to the Minister's response this evening, and I hope he's going to be further encouraging with what he says to us.